Thanks to everybody for their interest in families. We hear it come up so often. Today, we're going to talk about HomeBase, and really the overall goal here was to improve mental wellness for PSP families. We wanted to do this through a couple of different arms. So, and always kind of with a focus to building capacity in the research itself, so that we can get towards like very good evidence-based and family inclusive programming, and understand as well the other end, which is how organizations can actually address and engage with PSP families. So Emily, can you move to the next one, please? So the specific objectives were to identify and analyze existing public safety sector organizational support services and policies related to families and mental wellness. And we also wanted to look, outside of associations and organizations to look and see, what's going on in the community, where are their supports, where are their models. We wanted to be able to begin to understand the experiences and needs of PSP families. And it was interesting because when we started this process, so much of what we knew was being based on and kind of applied from military and veteran families. So really trying to identify what is the foundational material that we can base this kind of project, programmatic response, and to really try to identify what those priorities would be and what the recommendations might be and what would be within, say, a given organization's realm to be able to do it in terms of readiness and resources, and to move towards this development of family-focused resources. Can you move forward, please? So we've got a big team here, and one of the things that I just want to highlight here is that there's a lot of interdisciplinarity, and that really does matter because it really gives us a different perspectives where, we're pulling in on the family science, we're pulling from epidemiology, we're pulling from healthcare, and, people with different kinds of skills and experiences, and pulling across, our researchers who are very embedded in different public safety sectors themselves, as well as a bunch of international collaborators who have really deep, rich understanding. We have several trainees attached to this project. One, I will note, has been on month-to-month leave, the postdoc fellow, since March of 2021. So we're hoping to welcome her back next month, but time will tell. Okay, so we do have the two arms of the project. So the one arm is on PSP families and really trying to understand. Because of the way the timing happened with the pandemic, we shifted some of the foundational material to actually look at, what is currently known and to do a number of different reviews. And it's been very interesting because it's helped us to tease apart the differences between, what the perceived experiences and requirements are from the family's perspective as opposed to the PSP perspective. And it's really important to discriminate across those two, because if we rely purely on the PSP perspective to say what the families need, we only have part of the story. And that's one of the complexities of doing good families research. And it's certainly a lesson that was learned from the military sector that relied on military personnel to say what their families needed. And often it was what their perception was, and often that was to protect their families or exclude their families from view. So we are now, we've got 5 different reviews that we're wrapping up, fundamental knowledge, and we're into interview recruitment with families. On the PSP sector side, we've really done a lot of work on the environmental scan and identifying kind of, where and how families are recognized and addressed and included across sectors and in the community. And so we've been engaged in the organization engagement, and we're going to be ramping that back up now. We have new resources in place with new hires. So I think that's will be really interesting, because from the scans, we also, and the reviews, we have a lot of information about, what is possible for organizations to be doing. So I think it's, we're at a really good moment to be able to engage in those conversations. Next, please. So, the big take home for us, when you think about, what does it matter that we do this work? Consider this when you think about policies, programs, practices, whatever you're, thinking about with families. Are the efforts geared at supporting families to support the PSP for the sake of the PSP and or for the organization? Or are the efforts supporting families because they matter too? And so what we've really come, and we've stated this quite plainly on our Families Matter research group website, is that families matter unequivocally in their own right, with experiences, needs, and issues directly and indirectly related to the occupations of the family member. The families of PSP are often called upon to support the serving member as an extension of the organization, ensuring operational readiness and sustainability. These are important ways in which families are a vital contributor to these demanding occupations. But for them to be able to successfully support the serving member, they too need support independent of the family member they are expected to support. And so I think this is, families matter in their own right is a really important message. Can you move forward? Thanks. And so I just want to invite Paul Charbonneau, our representative from the Vanier Institute of the Family, as our principal knowledge user to say a few words. Paul.
Thank you, Heidi. The Vanier Institute is very excited to be part of this work that is going on. The Vanier has very deep roots in family research and is one of the only organizations that is totally family centered in our view. We truly believe in the work that Heidi and her team are doing in terms of the very fact that Heidi just stated, that families matter in their own right. So we're looking forward to the end and being a knowledge translator of this work out to many of our networks. We often refer to ourselves as a network of networks of networks. And we are all about connecting the research that we participate in to each other and being able to use this important information. So I'll turn it back over to Heidi at this time.
Thanks, Paul. And Vanier will be taking on a convening role as we look to connect the research arms in the coming quarters ahead of what's left in the grant over the next 2 years. Can you move ahead? Thank you. So one of the other things that we've been doing is really trying to kind of raise the visibility of families. So when we see the kind of, and families kind of phenomena, as if families are kind of this, oh yes, and families, like, families are recognized, families are valued, but, how do we build awareness and interest around PSP families? And what we decided to do is really consolidate all the research that's happening within the group under the one umbrella. And this is where all the research is happening across PSP families, as well as military and veteran families, because most of us are working across these sectors to build capacity and really engage with families and stakeholders. So you can find that website there as an means for updates ongoing. Can you fill it? Thank you. And so the other thing is that we're really trying to fill these gaps, and we're trying to integrate the efforts from the CHR grant with other research and capacity development projects. Many of you know that we do have a shared partnership development grant with Vanier, SIMBR, and CIFCERT, which is a partnership of partners for those who study, serve, and support families. And through that partnership, we launched the PSP Families Network in January of this year, and we'll be doing quarterly events to try and ensure that we can build this kind of connection and community, because it is a really significant issue, is that there's no coordinated mechanism to connect, engage, or reach families. So, we aim to build that infrastructure to allow the field as a whole to really be able to serve and support families. We have other mental health prevention projects for PSP families underway. We have a partnership engagement grant on COVID and families, and really looking to pull all of this information together in a very integrative way. And we've had some really significant disruptions and delays in the project, but when we map all of them together, we're actually going to be further ahead by 2023 than we had anticipated. So I think it's an incredibly rapidly changing field with a lot of interest in families. So, I thank everyone for their ongoing support of integrating families more in their own right. So it's lovely. It's a great team. It's a wonderful group of researchers. We're really privileged to have such, like goodwill, and I think the interdisciplinarity really enriches what we can bring